So let's take a look at something like that. So what I'm going to do here is we've got our cat server, and I'm basically going to create a dog server. So I'm going to duplicate this cat model, and we're going to call it a dog model.
Are you going to put cats and dogs in the same database?
Well, no, they're going to be in two different databases. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create...
That's important, you know.
They fight. I'm going to create a cat and a dog, and I'm going to create a pet server. So I'm going to have this cat server running in the background and the dog server running in the background. I'm going to create a pet server that's going to go and get data from both of those.
When you say server, you mean like a running instance of Express?
Yep.
Okay, so we'll have, it's all Node. We'll have maybe different ports?
Yep.
Okay, so each port 1, 2, and 3, for example, there won't be those, but 3001, 2, and 3
that's
maybe.
For root, yeah.
So we could do those guys running completely separately, but you can have a pet server which will talk to a dog and a cat.
Yep.
And then those servers will talk to their own databases?
Correct.
Cool. Lead the way.
Okie dokie. All right, so I've got some of this built out, but I can do it also on the fly. So we've got...
you have a fly database too?
Fly database, they're a pet. Would you want a pet fly? Oh, I definitely wouldn't want a pet fly. All right, I just made a mistake.
You don't have to feed them.
Dog server. You don't have to feed them?
No, they only live for 24 hours.
A fly only lives for 24 hours? You know a lot about flies.
I used to run a fly farm.
You're super fly. All right, so I'm going to go dogserver.js.
Nothing like distracting a programmer.
Okay, oh wait, I just quit out of Mongo. So I'm creating my dog server. So again, I'm using Express, body parser, Mongoose, but here I'm calling up localhost dogs is basically the difference.
So dog server is still Express, body parser, Mongoose. Oh, okay. Yeah, same exact thing we had before.
Dog routes, but I'm going to use a dots route. I'm going to create a folder. So this is kind of getting, you know...
a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, and so I read this style guide by this guy that says that you shouldn't have too many files in a folder. You should start creating new folders. So let's do that.
Yeah, he's crazy.
He is crazy. He's right sometimes. All right, so now I'm going to cut you, paste you.
All right, you're going to cut and move. Okay, so we're moving the cat routes up to routes.
Up into routes, and I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to create a dog routes.
Okay.
Just so I don't make any mistakes, I'm just going to copy and paste from a previous example. Oh, I call those dogs.
Okay, yeah, because now that they're in the routes folder, we don't need to say it's route.
Yep.
So we'll rename those files to dog and cat, or was it dogs and cats? I don't remember anymore.
It was dog and
singular.
Cat. Singular.
What's the hardest thing in naming?
Pluralization.
Yeah.
Saying pluralization. All right, so I'm building out these servers, and notice that these can all live in the same project, right? And there's just a few files, so I've got my cat routes and my dog routes. Let me...
I assume they're basically the same kind of routes, it's just dog or cat replaced.
Yeah, yeah, we can go through. And I just didn't want to make a spelling mistake. But so yeah, see, cat is exactly the same. We haven't changed it, so dog is exactly the same thing, but it's using dog instead of cat. And then we have a pet route. So actually, I think I can do this. Copy. Oh, look at you.
From Sublime to Sublime?
Uh-huh. I think we can do it.
Dude, I like that.
So now, this is our pet routes. Before I start talking about that, let me just finish building everything else out.
Yeah, let's make sure we get the servers right. We got the dog server, which was effectively the same as the other server we had, right?
Yeah, and I'm going to create a models folder too. So let's clean this up really nice. New folder, and we're going to call it models. I guess it's called models.
Yeah, I like this because we're starting to make things, putting them into little drawers. So we've got models for, we're working with the cat, and then I assume we're going to have the dog schema.
Mm-hmm.
We have routes, which will have 3 sets of routes. We'll have cat routes, dog routes, and pet routes.
Exactly.
And then we could add fly routes later if that's a pet too.
If that's what we want to do.
And then we'll also have different servers. We'll probably have a cat server, a dog server.
And a pet server.
And a pet server.
Yep.
And the pet server is probably just the index.js.
Yeah. I'll probably call it pet server just in this case because just to delineate it.
Okay.
So
you could actually even have an index that calls the pet server.
You could do that.
Yeah, I mean, it depends how much you want to separate things out and make them reusable.
So now I've got my cat model and my dog model. So my cat schema and dog schema, again, just very simple as you can see. I've got my cat routes and my dog routes, so basically pointing at the ports.
Okay.
Now if I look inside my dog server, I've got, let me change, so my index is my cat server, so I'm going to rename this into cat. See, I wish I could start typing there. That kind of drives me nuts.
Yeah, when you do the rename and Sublime that extension,
yeah.
It doesn't actually put the focus down there.
So I should have switched to VS Code.
We'll get you there.
So my cat server is listening on port 3000. My dog server is listening on port 3001. And so let me copy in my pet server. And
That's one of the biggest things I get confused on when I do Node is when I do different servers, knowing which one's on which port.
yeah, that the LSOP shortcut or LSP that I showed, that's very, very...
List all ports.
List open ports. And yeah, let me show you the alias again. This is very, very useful. That's what it is, sudo lsof.
So run it, show me all the ports, and grep listen means look for the things that are running.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, and the other thing I'm going to use now is I'm going to use forever. So you're going to want to use npm install -g. Let me move this up again. npm install -g forever. So that forever basically runs the process as a daemon in the background, and then you can look and see it'll log the files out, and then it'll constantly restart it if the server crashes.
Okay. And that's different than nodemon, where nodemon will constantly restart it if the file changes.
Exactly. So we've got our cat server, our dog server, and our pet server. So our pet server is pretty simple.
And they're all going into the routes folder to look for their accompanying thing.
Yep. And then we don't have to declare mongoose in this server. So again, see, we're on 3002 here because mongoose we're not using the database. We're just going to aggregate basically from cat and dog server.
Technically, do we even have to do mongoose in the cat and server and dog server? Let's look at that for a moment.
Yeah.
So that guy is connecting to mongoose, but we could have actually moved the mongoose stuff off to its own thing as well, right?
We could not connect it in here, to be honest with you. I think we could move this into the models, although it's good to do it at startup.
Yeah, we'll leave it at the start for now, but I guess the idea I was getting at there is we can have, you've already moved models off and routes off, you could actually create another thing called like DB connections or Mongo connections.
Yeah, initially.
And you could require that code, because right now we've copied and pasted it.
Yep.
From cat server to dog server. And we didn't have to do that.
What I tend to do actually too is a config file. I'll like have a config that's just a JSON object.
Even like the body parser and all this stuff, it's not dry anymore because we have it in multiple servers. We could actually have some kind of like an express configuration which we require in Impol.
Yep.
Which would be, in any production app, we'd probably want to go there.
Yep. All right, so I'm going to just test that these are working. So I'm going to say node cat server. Nope, can't find that.
We must have misnamed the cat routes. Oh, yeah, it's not cat routes anymore. Let's check our dog routes too.
That one I copy and pasted, so we should be good. Routes.cat.
Routes cat.
Let's see, working? Yeah.
He's good. He's 3000, and that's a no dog.
No dog. Do we have any up dog here?
3001.
3001, and then node pet server. Make sure that's running.
Can't find a request.
Okay, so that's good because we're going to talk about that before we run it anyways.
So when you pulled in the pet server, you started using a new module, but we haven't talked about him.
Yep. So I'll do it while I talk about it. I'll do an npm install.
Yeah, and it's a good idea because npm sometimes it's like really fast, sometimes it's a little slower.
And
I don't know about you, but once in a while when I use npm to install things, sometimes it times out or has issues along the way. And when that happens, usually I cache clear.
Yep.
Or is it cache clean?
Clean, clear,
Yeah,
clean.
run them both.
Yeah.
And then you basically just reinstall it again.
Yeah. It happens very few and far between. I haven't, and especially with the newer versions of npm, I haven't even noticed it. Have you noticed this actually? I was thinking what version I'm on an older version. There's a newer version, it's 3.4.
Right.
I got to update this machine. I won't do it now because I'm sure something will happen while we're doing this. But the new version is really cool. When you go install stuff, it's got like graphics and
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, and actually it flattens all the dependencies. Not all of them, but a lot of them.
It makes it look a lot easier.
Cool. Require.
So we required request. So what is request? Request allows me to go and make HTTP calls or any type of service calls, requests out, obviously, to secondary servers. So I'm going to make requests from my pet server to go out to my other servers. So say I have, I have a business and I've got all my big services up there and I want to send requests to all those services. I basically can send those requests out, come back and aggregate it.
And as far as the browser, assuming I got an app on the front of this goes, it only knows about the pet server.
Correct.
So he only talks to one guy.
Yep.
And then he's the one who kind of just goes and figures out how to get to everywhere else.
Yeah. And that'll be exposed outside of the firewall, the cat and dog server behind the firewall.
So why explain to me, what's the real value in having 3 different servers?
Well, what I'm demonstrating here and why we have 3 servers here is to demonstrate the fact that we can use one central web API, one central server, and aggregate the data from the secondary servers. We could have 50 servers, cat, dog, however many we have. And again, the reason being is for a client application, you only want to hit one point, right? You only want to have to go to the pet server to get all the information that you want. So if you're building out a web API for a new client or a new web application, and you want to hit all these back-end services, you have one central place. It's better for security. It's easier to code to and program for.
It'd be easier to maintain too, being separate and bring new things online or take things offline. Is there any performance hit by having multiple servers? No. No? Because they're all running the same place.
Yeah, how fast your network is. I mean, milliseconds. But
do they all take a separate process?
They do.
Okay.
I mean, so you'll have to have the architecture and the infrastructure to deploy these. But I mean, for some of the simple stuff that I do on the side, I fire up a Docker container, and I can just have all these running in different containers. And
gotcha.
That's another talk we have to do too.
Okay, so we get a request, and you're telling it it's defaulting to JSON as its what, content type?
Yes. So I'm saying when you're sending data, send it out as JSON. Okay. So there's this request I would strongly recommend going and taking a look at. It's there's a lot of things. Here's all my options that you can send. So as you can see, there's quite a few. I'm not going to talk through them all because there's
Please don't.
Yeah, there's about 1 million of them. But anything you can think of to do, you can use request. I also use request a lot to do like web scrapes. If I have to scrape a site and get information about it, like you're making a web request. Think of it as a node version of Postman, right? So you can set your headers and you can send these requests and then process the data.
Yeah, we need this because we have to make one node server talk to the other through HTTP.
Exactly. Okay, so what's going on here? So I've created a new endpoint, and notice here all I've got is pets. So if I look at my cat server, right, I've got a post request for /cat, I've got a get request, I've got like another get request for a cat by ID, I've got my put, and I've got my delete. So in pets, I've just got a pets, right? And what I'm saying is on this pets endpoint, call this function, and I'm using R to simulate the request, right? So I loaded request here as R, and I'm saying R, and I'm passing in an object. And this object says, here's the URI that I want you to go get. So very simple use case, right? I'm saying go to my local host, 3001, and hit the dog server, which I'm going to have running. And then when I hit that, when that comes back, here's the function that gets executed. If the first parameter is an error, or anything comes back as the first parameter, something was wrong, right? Then I get my response and I get my body. It's pretty, if you've done async, if you've done HTTP type stuff in the past, this is pretty standard stuff, right? So I'm checking, I'm saying, hey, if there's no error and my response code is 200, send back the body, okay? Yep. Otherwise...
So it's a pass-through.
Yeah. Otherwise, send nothing, or send the status code. So let's get this stuff running and see what happens.
That's where you can put like logging or other information at this point too.
Again, this is by no means production ready. I mean, I'm doing a lot of the error checking. It's just,
we're assuming happy path.
Yeah, we're just showing some fun stuff. All right, so if I do forever, and let me say I don't have anything running. Okay, so I've got no processes running. If I do forever, like
you installed forever as global?
Yep, npm-g, npm install-g forever. What happened? Npm.
Cannot start forever.
Forever. Oh, -- help, I think. Or just do it forever. So here's what I can do. I can start, stop all, restart, list, config, look at the logs, change the columns, how we log things. So again, this is basically allows me to start up multiple processes, multiple node processes, keep them running in the background, and reset them if they crash. So I'm going to run forever dog server.
Now the alternative would be what? You just run each one with node regular?
Yeah, I would have to, well, for this demo, if I was going to not use forever, I would have to, oh wait. So I just did that. So if you don't run start, it actually runs it in the foreground. I would have to run each one in a different window, and then just keep open tabs. But this is a lot easier because now I can say forever list, and I know I have one process running, and it's my dog server.
I got you. So this way you can run forever. Dog start dog server. It runs in the background.
Exactly.
As a daemon, and then you can do it for cat server and pet server.
Exactly. I'm going to do a trick, though. I'm not going to run it pet server with that, just so if we restart things, I'll use nodemon in the foreground.
Gotcha.
So forever start cat server. So now if I forever list, I can see I've got the two servers. I hate how they do the black on dark there, so you can't really see.
Yeah, I was like, I don't see the cat or the dog there.
Yeah, they're there. They're there. So I've got my cat and my dog
it's a
server.
security feature.
Yeah.
You can't read your own code.
So if I go to cat, I've got some cats. Let me go here and then go to dog on port 3001. So I've got a cat server and a dog server, John. I use your name, look at that. So a cat server and a dog server, and I've got some dogs in here, Diggity Dog, Scooby Dog, and some cats. So now if I go to my pet server, localhost 3002 pets.
We didn't run that one yet.
We don't have it running. So now I go nodemon pet server.
And again, why aren't you using Forever for pet server?
I could, but we're going to be playing around with the pet server and restarting it, and Forever doesn't watch and restart for me, so I wanted to keep that one in the foreground.
Could you Forever nodemon?
Oh yeah, of course. Okay. Oh no, Forever you cannot. I'm sure you might want. I don't know why you would ever want to, but maybe you could do something. Forever just calls node. I don't know if you ask me these crazy questions, and I want to know the answer now. All right, so if I go to pets, I look and see what went on, and I've got the dogs found successfully, right? And I got the data that came back from the dog server. So that's awesome, that works. So I went in through pets, so I've got, again, let's reiterate, I've got 3 servers running. Let me Control-C this, and I do again, Forever list. I've got these 2 servers running. I've got
dog and your cat.
my dog and my cat server, and they're both running. This is running on 3000. This is running on 3000, or 3000 is running on 3001. They have process IDs running as daemons,
Right.
And then the nodemon pet server is running in the foreground. And what I did was I came in through my web browser and I hit my pet server, and that went and set a request to my dog server. And I got that request back and then sent it back to the user.
So when I hit just /pets, I'm only getting dogs?
Right now you're only getting dogs.
Okay. What if I want cats too?
Well, that's a good question. So
If only we had a way to combine these.
what if I went like this? Let's just talk this through hypothetically, right? So let's say we did this request that goes to dog, and this request goes to cats, right? Or to cat. Dcat.
Dcat.
What's going to happen there?
It's going to get both sets of data, but you've got to reconcile how the data's in different places.
Yep. So if this comes back, and I do this, whichever one comes back first is going to send a response.json through the pipe, and that's going to close the pipe. So the second one's going to come back, it's going to have nowhere to send the data,
Right.
and we're going to have an error.
So we want to collect those data in local variables, or?
Well, that's a good question. So that leads us into the next topic, requests.
Awesome.
Or async. Async.